Hello, Reanimated, episode 125. This is the podcast about all things zombie. My name is Stuart. Joining me is the indelible H.A. Conrad. What's up?
Nothing much, you know, hanging out, watching the holiday zombie marathon that I typically put together.
And you're reeling from watching Rogue One, aren't you? How'd you do?
I am. I did pretty well. I do have some critiques of it, but overall thought it was really solid. Didn't expect it to go quite as long as it did, but overall I give it two thumbs up. How about you?
Yeah, I liked it. I
Um,
rather
I
enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it a lot. I felt like the look of it they really got right, and it was nice seeing Tarkin back. Although I have to say, I felt like they overused it a little bit too much. I think it would have been more effective if they had used that less. But still, I feel like we're getting to the point where it was almost not Uncanny Valley. You know what I mean? And I feel like, probably more noticeable to people like you and I who know that the actor's dead. But I feel like kids wouldn't notice it as much, the stuff that I was noticing.
Yeah, I think it's been getting a fair amount of flack for its attempts to do that stuff, but yeah, I don't see why they couldn't have found another person to be another person. Tarkin
Yeah,
isn't like the Empire is a huge thing. Like, there's no need to have Tarkin be this go-to guy all the time.
I just felt like they wanted to tie it in with the other films, and I feel like that's the way that they did it. The one thing that I noticed, and I don't know if it bothered you or not, but I felt like the scenes with Darth Vader, not the fight scene, but the scene where he's talking to the director,
Mhm.
um, whoever the actor is that's playing Darth Vader didn't get it down. To me,
Inside, you mean?
yeah,
Or not the
like
because the voice was a
no,
real
the
guy.
voice was fine. It was the physical whoever was playing the body of Vader. I felt like it wasn't. It felt like somebody in a Vader costume, and it was jarring to me. I think he did a great job. And then I found out later after I looked at this because it was really bothering me. But whoever played him, who did the fight choreography, the fight scenes, was a different actor. And I
No
thought
kidding.
he did it well. So I don't know. I honestly couldn't tell you exactly what the difference was, but the Vader of whoever was doing it with those particular scenes just didn't have it down, and it was enough that I was really bothered by it.
Oh, that's a shame. It's been surprising to me to learn how many reshoots and things that this film had gone through, like alternate endings, why there's so
Mm-hmm.
much footage in the trailers and previews that wasn't in the original film or wasn't in the theatrical release. But I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, so
Me
it's
too.
kind of hard for me not to like whatever they do, and that might be stretched to the limit as they come out with at least one a year for the
Right.
foreseeable future. But I'm loving it.
I mean, I just really felt like they got the feel down. I felt like the droids, and I loved the scenes in the market on
Jeddah.
on Jeddah. I thought that those were really awesome.
It's great to have so many alien characters put back
Right.
in. Like, yeah,
That was pretty awesome. I was like very excited. This was so overall I'm just really excited about it. I think Bill was a little less so. He's much more critical of this kind of thing than I am.
hmm
But I felt like the cast was fantastic. Overall, I just really and I thought Alan Tudyk did a fantastic job.
you could do a pretty good British accent.
Yeah, no, I thought he got it, and the snarkiness of what's the robot's name? K
K2SO.
K2SO was just really he was such a great addition and really in the spirit to me in the spirit of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah,
Just loved him. So
yeah.
anyway,
Back to
um,
zombies.
back to zombies, getting our nerdiness out of there. Um,
Wait
but
for a reanimated spin-off show. I don't know what we
we
call
we
it.
could do all things sci-fi. I think that would be okay. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody would complain. But yeah. So anyway, on to our very small amount of zombie news. Basically, there probably because it's a holiday week. It's a little light on the zombie news, but this little article was weird enough that I decided that we should talk about it. And basically, it's an article shows up in the Mirror. We'll see if we can find another article leading to this because this one's a little bit annoying. I think you have to fill out a survey or something to look at it. but it is about this artist, and she makes these what she calls reborns, but they are little baby dolls made to look like zombies and vampires and Grinches, and she sells them for quite a bit of money. And they are really disturbing, but also like from an artistic point of view, they are incredible. So, uh,
Disturbingly lifelike.
right. She they are this the woman has a website called the Twisted Beanstalk Nursery.com, and there's a lot more there. She is named Bean Shanine. I doubt that's her real name, but anyway, that's what she goes by. And she does she's an artist by trade and started doing these in 2010. And they are really, there's like the photo galleries are pretty incredible. And it sort of runs the whole spectrum from vampires to, I don't even know what some of these things are. Some of them could be White Walkers, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, but they are really interesting. She also has a YouTube channel. So anyway, check it out. It's disturbingly creepy in this holiday season. But really, and I also thought it was, I mean, the materials for this, I mean, it must cost her quite a bit of money,
Hmm.
but she charges a lot for them, and she should. Each doll apparently is about 20 hours of work, which is a lot of work for one doll. So
Yeah.
kudos to you, Bean Janine.
Yeah, it's a cool story. On a slightly different note, on a personal note, not really personal, what I've been up to lately is playing some Project
Mm.
Zomboid, which is, I think it's still in development, might even be in alpha still. This is a video game, isometric survival zombie game that you can play either single player or co-op with a bunch of other people. And I've been playing a little bit of it with a handful of people, and it's a very, for being like an isometric, which is like kind of looking down at a little dude who you control. It's still quite immersive.
Hmm.
Um, you're just kind of trying to build a basic zombie survival shelter in a overrun suburb in the case of the map that we're playing on, and it's really cool. And yeah, been doing that some late nights and scaring the bejesus out of myself. And then on the other another tack, I've been playing some D&D lately actually, and Dungeons and Dragons is probably like where, and fantasy is where initially I was introduced to the concept of undead, right? Because it's a
Yeah.
fantasy undead is like a huge thing, even though it's just one aspect of the stuff that you can run into in these games of role playing,
Right.
pen and paper type role playing games. But and they're like actually a much less scary version than modern post apocalyptic zombie canon because they don't have the same virility as far as the transmission goes, but they're still, walking corpses. But in D&D, you have a lot more power because that's kind of, it's like this game of empowerment, right? You role play as someone who's way more capable than just a normal Joe Blow mundane guy.
Right.
But so I just wanted to not pitch, but throw out a plug for Critical Role, which is a show on YouTube and Twitch done by Geek and Sundry with a bunch of voice actors who play D&D, and it's been going on for more than a year on that channel, but it's a cool way to watch a 4-hour session once a week of D&D. And D. And if you don't want to spend that much time, they have recently come out, not that recently, but now Geek and Sundry in cooperation with Chris Hardwick, who is increasingly becoming the Ryan Seacrest of nerds. He A show called Force Gray with a few other comedians and other actors, and those are 30-minute chunks of Dungeons and Dragons. And so, if people are into
So
that, they
I have
can
a
find those
question
on
for
YouTube.
you.
What's that?
So do you actually, because this is the thing about Twitch and things like that, I don't really, I would rather be playing a game than watching somebody play it, but you
Right.
like to do that?
Well, D&D is so story driven that and with comedians, it's a funny story,
Okay. So there's a
and
little bit of an add to it because
yeah,
of who they are and the fact that they have
a
a.
lot of it comes down. I wouldn't just watch. Tried to listen to other people's D&D like on podcasts, and to varying degrees of success. But for whatever reason, Critical Role is a bunch of voice actors, so they really, really get into their characters in a
Okay.
good way. And
I'll
so
buy that.
they really sell the role playing. And the dungeon master Matt Mercer, who is the DM for the first season of Force Grey anyway, and for Critical Role, can do like 100 accents
Hmm.
and is a really good storyteller. And he does it pretty much all on the fly.
Hmm.
He's not taking this from a book. He's just kind of like his imagination seems to be
Improvising and
boundless. So
cool.
it's a bunch of really likable characters and a really good storyteller, kind of just weaving it together. So that's essentially it. And while it's not always about undead, there definitely are undead elements, just because that's the universe.
Cool. All right. Well, that's fair. Good plug.
So should we move on to The Walking Dead?
Yes. Let us move on.
Episodes 13 and 14 from season 5 are what we're going to be covering today. Those are called Forget and Spend.
Mm-hmm.
So Forget, episode 13, was written by, I never remember which order these are.
David
Written
Boyd.
by David Boyd, directed by Corey Reed, or vice versa.
I think it's vice versa.
All right. And this episode, I have to say, was pretty damn boring.
Yeah, it's pretty boring. They play up the Stepford wife feeling in this to me a lot. It's that
Define,
weird.
elaborate.
Well, so this is basically Rick's group in the community of Alexandria, just getting used to life in Alexandria, which is very jarring to them because they've been out there surviving so long. And it's this whole, like, have you been out in the wild so long kind of theme. At least that's how I read it. Um, and they're not doing the best job at adjusting, or they're having varying levels of success at adjusting. And so, I mean, we've got Sasha, who's clearly having some issues. She especially doesn't like the photographs in the place where she's staying.
She hates those
She
photographs.
really hates those. I was just like, man, take it to that level, dude. And, so she gets up in the middle of the night or very early morning, goes to get a gun, and goes out and has target practice with them all alone, which is ill advised, and keeps looking all around and is like, come on, guys, get me. And that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And we've got Rick and Michonne doing their weird little sheriff roles. I do enjoy the weird lacing up the back thing Michonne has done with
Yeah.
the jacket, because that seems like a lot of work.
Well,
I don't know.
it's also it's good storytelling, because later Deanna says, "Well, we used to have a policeman in this
Right.
neighborhood, and so we had these uniforms, which means it's a men's jacket, and so she has made it a Michonne jacket."
Yeah, which is fine. It just, it would take a lot of effort to get that to that
Yeah,
point. That's a lot of sewing effort.
yeah.
Um,
I just hope she changes her shoes, because I am tired of her weird floppy boots that
yeah.
seem to have no ankle support.
Yep, they're troubling. And you have Rick having these weird little interactions with everybody, and
Well, he has another conspiracy meeting out in the woods, right, where
yep.
they talk about getting the guns, and Carol and Daryl seem totally on board.
Hmm.
Carol more so than anyone. Um,
Right. I do enjoy her weird, sort of like docile persona where she's wearing that horrible rose sweater
yeah.
and, playing the homemaker and all that fun stuff. That's kind of cool. But yeah, no, they have their little meeting, their little cabal in the woods, and, you know,
Well, they find a zombie with a W etched
yeah,
in its forehead, which
yeah.
is just more wolf foreshadowing.
Hmm. So, they're still on board with each other, I guess. And then, but there's this interaction with the community at Alexandria. And again, this is something I mentioned in our last episode, which is that I just find it very hard to believe that this group is as naive as they all, like, they just all seem to be totally naive. And we see a few more cracks in the armor about what's really going on here, later on in this episode, as well as definitely in the next episode, more so in the next episode. But there's little hints of it here. And it's that feeling that things are not as they seem to be, that they are living in this sort of constructed world that it is not based in reality. And it's almost like it's very much a theme of I want to believe kind of thing that the members of Alexandria have. So there's this whole dinner party that Deanna's throwing, that they're all invited to, and everybody keeps pushing them to go to. And when I first watched this episode the first time, part of me was like, what's in the Kool-Aid? It feels like everybody needs to drink the Kool-Aid, and in this case it wasn't drugged as I was thinking it might be. I thought that this was some sort of plot to get them to go to this party for a specific reason.
Hmm.
And it is a little bit of a drinking the Kool-Aid kind of situation, though not in that literal sense. But you have various members of the Alexandria community approaching Rick's group, and all of them seem to have this theme that they're pushing, which is, isn't it great here? You know, come out of the woods. And they do this with Rick, with Sasha.
Well,
Um,
Jesse's point to Rick actually makes some sense because she's like, the view is nice here, and then you pan the room, and Carl is laughing with the kids, and the rest of a bunch of other Rick's group people are like chilling, like drinking a
right.
beer. Some of them are uncomfortable, but Rick has to concede the point that it's better than the
Being
alternative.
out there. No, and that's true. And and the fact that Carol's able to make cookies and they have oven and they have electricity and they have all this stuff that they certainly, but it again feels like a fantasy land and like there is some undercurrent there. And you feel the undercurrent there, like Jesse's husband. There's definitely something weird there. I feel like there's something strange going on there, even in how he's being so cozy with Rick, and later on we see Rick all macking on Jesse, which you can't blame the man. Um, and the only person that really seems to just reject all of this outright, or at least publicly, is Sasha. Because she's just like, I can't believe you guys are all talking about this. The theme of this one is the stupid pasta maker, which I'm just like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Mrs. Whatever her name is in her
The
pasta
first time
making.
that comes up when Spencer is letting Sasha into the party, her reaction, and honestly, not Sasha, but Sonequa Martin Green's acting in this episode is
It's
really
really
good.
awesome. Yeah.
I mean, she's obviously dialed it up to 11 with her like paranoid eyes, but
Hmm.
it just works. And the way that she looks at Spencer when he's talking to her about like, I'll help you through this conversation, party. And she just looks at him like, whatever. And except not that,
It's
not
more
that
of
way.
it's a face like, are you effing kidding me?
I will
Like this.
shoot you.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
totally good.
it is very funny. But then it turns obviously a little more serious when she has her flip out at the party, which is has to happen, frankly, because these
Hmm.
people need wake up calls like every 5 minutes.
Yeah. And they're just talking about inane, stupid crap. And I mean, some of that you could argue, it's nice that they have the freedom to do that. But from the Rick people point of view, it's like you can do this, you can relax, but you can't relax too much. And sort of the way that they are interacting to me is make believe. And they're make believing to the point where the threat from the outside is seems like it's not a threat, and that's dangerous.
Right.
So you've got that going on. And then there's the whole Daryl section of this episode, which
Daryl
Daryl,
befriends
yeah,
Aaron. They kill a horse,
oh,
and then he gets some spaghetti and a motorcycle.
yeah. Have to say though, this show is not a fan of horses at all. This is the second or third horse we've seen pulled apart. The first
Yeah.
most memorable one being the one Rick rides into Atlanta on.
Yeah.
But it's kind
That
of,
one at least served a purpose. Buttons serves no purpose. His death.
yeah, other than to sort of bond these two a little bit.
That's a pretty expensive bonding moment.
Yeah. And they, he still doesn't trust Aaron, but he's starting to get there. He can't quite bring himself to go into the big party, but he does concede that, he goes in to have dinner with Aaron and Will. Will, is that his name?
Eric.
Eric, sorry. Aaron and Eric.
Yep.
And and they reward him by showing him motorcycle parts. And basically not playing to his ego, but they are kind of. And basically, the gist of it is that they feel like Daryl would be a good person to help with recruiting because he can recognize good from evil or good people from bad. He doesn't have the blinders on,
I
and
don't
he's
know, man.
also.
He joined the Claimers for like a week.
I
So.
know, I know, but I felt like that was more of a survival
Uh-huh.
tactic.
Uh-huh.
But in any case, there was a great scene between him and Aaron in the beginning of this episode where like Aaron sort of pops out at him, which it's like, dude, are you dumb or what? And
Honestly, if I was doing jobs, sorry to, I would put Daryl on hunting and
right,
Michonne on recruiting.
recruiting. Yep. But whatever.
Yeah,
But you've got he like Aaron's like, oh, you can tell walkers from real people, and Daryl just gives him a look like, are you stupid? Yeah. So there's that stuff going on. And then there's also the weird Carol stuff between Carol and Sam, the little boy. And
the first of many. And
the
honestly,
first of many creepy interactions between these two, where I'm just like, man, Carol, like
you're,
you're like the creepiest Mrs. Robinson ever here.
it's not good. I mean, I guess there was a lot of critical appreciation of this, but I have a problem, AJ, and its name is season six, and I cannot see past that, even though we have
Mm-hmm.
not come there yet in the chronology. I essentially have to fast forward to every scene with Jesse or Sam or the other kid, which
Yep.
thankfully he's not in that many scenes. So I'm if something interesting actually happens in one of those scenes that I've missed, it's because I'm literally just like, I don't want to watch the scene with Sam because I don't care because
Right.
the show really made it hard for me to care
About
based on
Sam.
its
Mm-hmm.
treatment of these characters, of this whole family
Uh-huh.
in the next season. So that's
Agreed.
kind of where I'll be coming from for the next few.
No, and I hear you, and I admittedly, I had a hard time rewatching these for that reason, but I did not fast forward. I just gritted my teeth and watched it.
Well, you're a better person than I.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, I am clearly.
Uh, uh-huh.
But no, I hear you, but again, this is one of those things where these are sometimes the issues I have with the writers on the show and what they do with certain characters, and this is probably one of the most egregious sins I think I've seen. So, but
What you're talking about
obviously,
what happens next season.
yes, what
Yeah.
happens next season?
But so for this season, we just have poor little Sam who might be he's an abused, terrified little boy, even
Right.
in the safety of Alexandria. And Aunt Carol is just putting all these terrible thoughts into his head, like that she'll leave him outside to get eaten up by zombies, and
Yeah, she's basically like a wicked witch in
yeah,
this.
just because he wants extra cookies.
Yep.
But
She bribes him with cookies. And you know what, kids? Anytime somebody tells you to keep a secret in this way,
mhm,
probably a big fat warning sign. Just
yeah,
saying. So, yeah, so you got that going on. Um, then we've got. I think that's pretty much it for this episode, unless you had something else.
there's this weird fucking scene with at the end of this episode. Now that
Yeah.
they all have their guns, where Rick sees Jesse and Pete walking down the street, and he like reaches for his little
Mm-hmm.
revolver, and it makes
Mm-hmm.
zero sense.
It doesn't. But then they got that crazy song going on, and he just kind of strolls down to listen to the outside of the fence, which
Yeah,
is he hears a walker, and he's got crazy eyes on. So is he longing for the walker, or is he
it's like
excited?
one of
It's
those
very
prison.
strange.
It's the prison scene where they're in like the visitation chamber, and they put
Yep.
their hands up on the glass.
Yep.
That's what it is. So Rick feels like he's separated from his real life or something. I don't
Something
know.
like that. But leaping into the next episode, which is called Spend, directed by Jennifer Lynch, written by Matthew Negrete. And this shows just sort of the breakdown of the Alexandria community, the breakdown between them and Rick's team. This is, I don't know, they do a very heartwarming scene with Noah in the beginning, which, of course, your alarm bells start going off and he's going to bite it. He has some interest in being an architect. Yeah, I know. And like, I don't know. He's starting to get comfortable, and we saw the beginning of this actually in the last episode because there's this heartwarming little scene between Noah and Maggie and Glenn, where Maggie and Glenn tell Noah he's family.
Right.
And I'm like, oh no, you're not family, Noah. You're definitely not family, or
Yeah.
you're not family for long anyway. This is the
Yeah.
death now.
Honestly, Noah's like pronounced limp has basically doomed him from the beginning of his
Right.
character's introduction.
Right.
There's no coming back from that. You can't have a permanent limp and survive
Uh-uh.
on this show. No, sir.
No, no way. So anyway, that sort of jumps into a foraging mission with Glenn and Noah and Eugene.
Aiden and Nicholas.
Aiden and Nicholas, and they're going out. They're looking for hard drives.
No, they're not hard drives. They look like hard drives. They're solar inverters
Sorry, solar inverters.
because the solar grid's down.
Right,
So it's a good thing Eugene showed up because apparently he's the only one who knows how to find this part.
right.
And that's actually something that Rick says in the episode previous. He's like, these people are so damn lucky, and they just keep getting luckier all the time, which is a total like 180. Oh, not maybe not. It depends on how you read his closing statements from the episode before that one, where he's like, and if they don't shape up, we're just gonna take this place, which I read as we were both kind of like, well, it sounds very governor-esque, but I
Yep.
think he always potentially meant it for their best interest or something,
Right.
possibly.
Yep.
Because he's like, and now we're here, and so they're even luckier.
Right.
And then, like that is made true in this episode where Eugene is apparently now their solar expert
Right.
because he's kind of a jack of all trades of knowledge about equipment.
Yep. So, but Eugene doesn't really want to go on this mission, but they say he has to, because he knows what they're looking for. And then you've also got the other story here with Rick. Like he's doing some of his sheriff duties. And like one of his cases, I don't know what you want to call, but Jesse's sculptures have been all like messed up, and she kind of blames it on an owl or something like that, which just doesn't seem
I think the statue was of an owl.
yeah. But no, but didn't this turn into like an owl like went through the window or something like that? I don't know.
I don't even know.
It just seems pretty lame, clearly, and something else is going on. And then you've also got Abraham helping with the crew, which the construction crew, and their whole plan is to basically extend out the wall, so they go out to this old construction site.
Best part of this episode.
Yeah, that is actually the best part of this
Because not
episode.
only is it like just a cool premise, like, hey, we're expanding the walls, so we have to go out to this quarry or whatever, this work site, and get these metal sheets. So they've got a bunch of dudes and a bunch of people, sorry, ladies and men and women and guns and equipment, and there's a chick standing on top of a excavator. It's just cool looking, and then you got some great quotes like, "I gotta send a fax to Cleveland," which is apparently code for take a dump, and "Mother Dick,"
Yep, that
one
happens a
of
few times.
one of Abraham's best. Uh, but yeah, I love that whole thing, and because it's a nice contrast also between
What
we
happens to
we get to see this in I guess a couple of like because Aiden and Nicholas are shitty cowards too, and Tobin turns out to be kind of a shitty coward, even though he's like, "I'll teach you how to shoot a gun, Miss Carol," in the
Carol?
episode before. So uh, it's not just that they're naive; they're just like bad.
They're bad in
I
a
don't mean
cowardly way.
yeah, I
No,
just
no,
mean
no.
like
They're just like their survival is basically like there is no such a thing to
shoot
them.
yourself and run away.
Yeah, it's sort of like if you get into a situation, nobody's going to save you. Like that's their survival instinct.
Right.
And it's pretty horrible. Because it's not just horrible in like the sense that they're going to leave somebody behind because this is an able-bodied person, so you're leaving behind some of your best assets,
Yep.
basically.
Yep.
But it's also a moral thing when somebody's about to get taken apart by walkers. If you can, you're going to put them out of their misery. And we
Right.
see two cases here. One case, it wasn't possible to help him, but in the other, they could have put him out of his misery, and they didn't.
I feel like really that it was impossible to put a bullet through Aiden's head before he gets torn apart.
Yeah, I know. Like, dude, just
I
like,
mean,
and
wow.
he's in such a vulnerable position. I mean, this was like one of the worst things. So when this is like Eugene and Glenn's group when they are going to get the solar stuff, um, there's walkers all held behind the cage, clearly nerdy walkers because they're in the storehouse. And things go wrong pretty quickly. There's some who shot that again? Like it was like a
It was Aiden.
riot. It was Aiden who
Oh,
did it.
but that's not just a cop because he's got grenades.
Right.
That's a member. That's a soldier, but with a weird riot police helmet on.
Right. And like so there's an explosion. And they think Aiden's dead because I mean, he's got all this shrapnel stuff and like rebars through him.
Yeah.
And they're like, and then Tara is injured, and it's like they basically start to leave, and then of course as they start to leave and bring Tara to the van, Aiden comes to, and it's pretty horrible because he's like pinned in multiple places, and Glenn and Noah basically force
Nicholas.
like Nicholas to go and help them, who doesn't want to, and like it's just Nicholas basically is like, this is what we do. We leave people behind. It's like, and Glenn looks at him like, what? Like, what are you talking about, man?
It's the most ridiculous thing to say out loud. It's like, this is who
Yeah,
we are. We this
we
is what
leave
we
people
do.
behind. And so this leads to a horrible situation. Eugene redeems himself, finally starts killing some
That's yes.
walkers.
This
That
is
was
big.
pretty awesome.
This is big. He saves Tara's life
Yep,
after saying to her like, "This is your fault. I told you
yep,
that I was a liability." But then he
yep,
totally mans up
yep,
and almost saves the day.
yep.
Almost saves everyone, but Nicholas,
Screws
because
that up.
apparently everyone from Alexandria is a liability. Nicholas screws it up, and Noah has probably the worst death scene
That was
of
pretty
this
awful. I mean,
series.
yeah, I think so. Like, this is bad. I mean, it's torn apart right in front of Glenn, like 2 inches from Glenn. Glenn can't do anything to put him out of his misery because he's like caught between with the glass. They're in like those revolving doors. It was really awful. Like, I mean, I'm graphic and like, oh man, it's rough. It is
It's a
really,
little
really
bit
rough.
laughable. Uh, Part of it reminded me of the movie Deep Blue Sea, where
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Samuel L.
yeah.
Jackson gets eaten by a shark because
It's
they
over the
like
top.
first they drag him out of the revolving door and then they throw him up against the glass right in front of
I
Glenn. I'm like,
know,
no,
I know.
when have zombies been into like making demonstrations of like this is how we're gonna eat this guy? It was more like that once they drag him out into the room, it seems more likely that he would have just been eaten on the floor,
Yep,
but
but
they
they
throw him
didn't
on
do
the
that.
glass.
It was a true display.
Yeah.
Somebody had a lot of fun with this scene. That's all. And then we got a good sort of satisfying moment when Glenn like punches the shit out of Nicholas. But it's just like at this point he's gone, and what can you do? And but there's definitely these like Glenn's having some crazy eye moments, which is just like I can't believe these asses. Like I can't believe this is what they do. And then to contrast this, at least some of Rick's group, i.e., Abraham, was super successful in staving off the construction site zombie attack. Though I will say,
Hmm.
I've got some issues with this whole thing.
What?
I mean, I think that they're highlighting that the Alexandria folks are a liability, but the way these things come on, it wasn't fully believable to me that they were being overrun in the way that they sort of portray. It felt a little bit too convenient. And you've got a lookout, and she didn't see everybody coming. I don't know, like she didn't see the walkers coming. Isn't that the point of having a lookout up high
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
But she Fancy falls down, almost gets eaten. Abraham comes and saves her, and he's like looking at the other Alexandria people, like, "What are you doing?" And they're just doing their coward thing and running away.
But they actually hadn't completely run away. I would think that if they
They
were
have
total
run away
cowards, they would have gotten in those pickup trucks and driven away. But instead, they run to the pickup trucks
and
and
wait
then
to see.
stand there and point their guns at the zombies, but aren't really shooting very much.
Right,
So it's like, that's a half measure, you know. If they're really going to commit to this whole coward storyline, then they should just get in the trucks and leave. But
right,
instead, they run to the trucks, turn around, point their guns, but don't shoot, and then have a little conversation, and then decide to go and
right. Well, Abraham's just taking care of business.
the guy who's probably taken a dump in his pants by now is the one who is like, "Let's go save them."
Yep. And then, of course, this leads to Tobin stepping down as construction chief and basically saying Abraham's going to be it.
And he does it while they're still out at the work site.
I know, which is weird.
He's like, "They're still out there. They're still
And
working."
there's this
Like,
like
why
weird.
aren't you there too, you dumbass? Like,
Yeah, and
go.
there's this stupid moment with Deanna where she's like, "Oh, all your people are taking leadership positions," and oh, I don't know, and it's like, it's really dumb. And you've also got my least favorite. Like, I just hate Father Gabriel so effing much,
I
dude.
think we're supposed to. I mean,
I know,
that's
but like, come on. And honestly, the way he does this, I had some respect for Deanna because she does like push back on him. but then sort of like he just repeats his crazy ass argument that the devil like masquerades as a light bringer. So he just says the same stuff, and at first she doesn't believe him, but when he repeats it, oh well, then that's got legs.
You've given me a lot to think about.
Right? Like it just is so ridiculous, and he sounds like a crazy jackass.
But we're not 100% sure that Deanna has like, other than the thing that she just said earlier to Maggie about, Tobin quitting and Abraham being in charge of construction now. We don't know that she has flipped on Rick's group.
Yeah.
However, Sam and Carol, the saga continues where he's like, I want cookies. She's like, you have to go steal for me. I'm sure on some level she's like trying to train him to be a survivor by making him steal
Yeah, but
and
it is kind of
lie.
like, go get me chocolate, little boy.
I'd be
It's
like,
really
do you,
creepy.
yeah, like let's do knife training. This is how she trained people before, but maybe she figures because Lizzie turned into a serial killer that wasn't the way to go, and she should
Yeah.
make him steal things
Instead, yeah.
instead. But yeah, I would be
And
like,
then
yeah, let's do push-ups, and these are what zombies look like, and learn to kill them. I don't know.
But then you have these moments between him where he's asking for a gun, not for him, and she's like, "For who? For who?" And there's enough subtext within her conversations with him, and it's not even really much subtext. It's kind of out there that she concludes that he's being beaten. And Rick has a really weird conversation with Jesse's husband again, which is somewhat threatening, and
Well,
you know,
Pete's a real close talker, isn't he?
yeah, he's super close, and you're like, get. There is some personal space here, man. Like,
Let's
move
be
back.
friends.
Yeah, you don't
I don't
want
know.
to.
Yeah, there's nothing okay about Pete.
No,
Pete's just
no.
wrong from top to
He's
bottom.
yeah, and so you can see Rick's okay with whatever conclusion Carol's coming to, which is that Jesse and Sam are being beaten, and she is somebody that came from this background, so you can probably trust that she has a sense of what the different trigger trigger warnings are basically on this, and she basically said, "Oh, there's really nothing you can do. You have to kill him," and that's sort of the end of the episode. But it definitely one of the things that I think this episode does is that you like I feel like a couple episodes back you had this feeling like Rick's group was being kind of crazy and nuts and like why aren't you sort of trusting this group more, but this has you much more feeling for Team Rick, I think, than other episodes have. The other
Yeah.
episodes, you always felt like this is sort of the one where the bloom is off the rose. They're showing you the flaws of Alexandria.
Are they though?
They
Really, all we have for this is Carol's opinion.
No, but also the behavior of the other people and the work site and
Oh,
the
well,
the
yeah.
raid.
I
I mean,
thought you
you've
meant
got
like
that
the.
stuff.
But when they come to their conclusion of like the only way to do this is to kill Pete, then I'm like, well, actually, I think that there are other ways to handle this. First of all, getting proof.
Right.
This is an interesting storyline though for this show. Like,
It
how do
is.
you handle spousal abuse in the post-apocalypse?
Right.
And apparently, Alexandria's approach has been to ignore it if they even paid any attention to it.
Right.
But Rick's group is like, no, he must die because there's only one punishment. There's
Right.
only one punishment in the dictatorship, and that is death to the
Death.
offenders.
Yep. We got two more left of this season.
Yeah. And then we
And
move
then
on.
on to season 6.
Although, one other thing I wanted to talk about in zombie news, which is, well, let me verify this real quick. Trust but verify. I think there is a cool zombie show that is now on Netflix that we need to watch immediately after we finish this season.
All right. I'm
And
I'm down
that
with that.
is Dead Set.
Okay.
Yep, it is on the Netflix. It's a 2008 British zombie show that was had one season,
Cool.
and we are gonna watch the heck out of it. It's only 5 episodes, as British
Awesome.
shows tend to be.
Let's
But
do it.
there's a fair amount of meta stuff in that show about because it's about a reality TV show like Big Brother, which I
Cool.
think started in the UK, maybe,
It
or
did.
certainly was very popular there. And so some of the screen personalities from that TV genre are in this show as themselves. But yeah, we will watch that and review it coming soon after we finish up season 5 of The Walking Dead. But in the meantime, anybody who's interested can get in touch with us at reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at reanimatedpcast and check out our show notes with links to the stories and things that we talk about on reanimatedpodcast.com.
Excellent. Well, until next time, ciao.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Goodbye.